Tonight's titillating tidbits. Galveston, we have a problem. 1900's biggest hurricane hits Texas. Ford to the rescue. Tricky Dick gets the pardon. And Star Trek begins. Captain Kirk meets the salt-sucking siren. Plus, coming up, we ask the question on everyone's mind. Can chickens really do the cha-cha slide on the moon? Those are the headlines. May the farce be with you.
News Bang, uncovering the high school dropout in the gown of reason. Audacity 1900.
On this day in 1900, the city of Galveston, Texas decided to host the world's first underwater jazz festival. Unfortunately, nobody told Mother Nature, who crashed the party with a Category 4 hurricane, turning the event into a deadly game of musical chairs, with 6,000 fewer seats by the end.
Eyewitnesses report seeing entire houses floating down the street, with one local, Buford Soggy McGee, exclaiming, "I always wanted beachfront property, but this is ridiculous."
The storm surge was so powerful it washed away the city's plans to become the Venice of Texas, along with most of its inhabitants. Meteorologists at the time, armed with their state-of-the-art wind-licked fingers, were caught completely off guard.
In the aftermath, city officials implemented a groundbreaking hurricane preparedness plan. If it's wet outside, bring an umbrella. The disaster also led to significant changes in weather forecasting, with the introduction of the revolutionary look out the window technique.
1974.
President Gerald Ford has granted a full and unconditional pardon to former President Richard Nixon, effectively letting him off the hook for any crimes committed while in office. The pardon, which comes just a month after Nixon's resignation due to the Watergate scandal, has left the nation reeling in disbelief.
Eyewitnesses report seeing Nixon doing cartwheels on the White House lawn, shouting, "I'm not a crook, I'm just misunderstood." Meanwhile, Ford defended his decision, stating that it was time for the country to move forward and focus on more pressing matters, like finding his missing socks.
Legal experts are calling this move unprecedented, outrageous, and a slap in the face to Lady Justice herself. One anonymous source close to the administration was overheard saying, "Well, at least we won't have to worry about Nixon breaking into any more offices. He's probably too busy planning his comeback tour."
1966.
Millions of Americans were beamed up last night as the cult phenomenon Star Trek invaded living rooms across the nation. The show's premiere episode, The Man Trap, left viewers trapped in a state of confusion and awe, with reports of spontaneous Vulcan salutes breaking out in major cities.
Eyewitnesses claim that the diverse cast caused mass hysteria, with one man, Herbert Schlotz from Poughkeepsie, declaring, "I've never seen so many different people working together without killing each other. It's unnatural."
The show's creator, Gene Roddenberry, has been accused of witchcraft for his eerily accurate predictions of future technology. "He's clearly in league with the devil," shrieked Mildred Finkelstein, local busybody. "How else could he know about those fancy light-up clipboards?"
These is News Bang. Chasing truth, defeating deception. There is no off button.
And now, with a forecast as unpredictable as a cat in a room full of rocking chairs, here's our weather correspondent, the inimitable Shakanaka Giles.
Well, if it isn't the anniversary of that old hurricane hullabaloo down in Galveston. Looks like Mother Nature's got a bit of a mischievous streak as she's cooked up a right proper storm for us this Sunday. Down south, the skies are darkening like a bruise on a boxer's eye, and the winds are howling like a pack of rabid wolves. Batten down the hatches, folks, because it's going to be a real barnstormer. Might want to keep an eye out for any wayward livestock or stray grannies getting swept up in the gales. Up north, it's a bit of a Mixed bag, some sunny spells, but also the occasional downpour like a clumsy waiter spilling their tray all over the place. Probably best to pack both your wellies and your sunscreen just to be on the safe side. And in the Midlands, well, it's a bit of a wild card. Could be a pleasant autumn day, or it could be an absolute scorcher, like someone's lit a fire under old Blighty's bum. Best to be prepared for anything, I'd say. In summary then, a bit of a tempestuous time all around. Batten down those hatches, keep a firm grip on your hats, and don't forget your brolly. And that's all the weather.
So boom, it's 1566.
We're getting reports of a right royal rumble in Hungary. Seems Suleiman the Magnificent, the Ottoman Empire's top dog, has decided to pop over to Sigetvar for a bit of a how do you do? Problem is, those plucky Habsburg chaps aren't rolling out the red carpet. In fact, they're hurling rocks, boiling oil, and some rather rude insults from the ramparts. For a live update on this situation, we go to our man on the front lines, Brian Bastable, who's currently dodging cannonballs and kebab skewers. Brian, what's the bloody state of play?
Well, Pamela, Sigetvar is a scene of absolute bedlam. Imagine a kebab shop after a visit from a particularly angry Viking. The air is thick with the stench of gunpowder, blood sausage and desperation. The Ottoman forces are swarming like wasps around a dropped baklava. But those Habsburg boys are putting up a fight that would make a rabid honey badger look like a fluffy bunny rabbit. I just saw Nikola Zrinski, the Croatian commander, take down 3 Janissaries with a single swing of his sword. He's got a glint in his eye that says, "Come and have a go if you think you're hard enough." And frankly, Pamela, I'm not about to argue with the bloke. He's got a moustache that could curdle milk at 50 paces. Suleiman's looking a bit less magnificent and a bit more mildly disgruntled right now, Martin. His army's taking a proper hammering, and rumour has it he's got a nasty case of the gout. It seems even mighty sultans aren't immune to a bit of toe-twinging. This siege could go either way, Pamela, but one thing's for sure, it's going to be a bloody mess. Brian Bastable, News Bang, signing off before I get recruited as a human shield.
1954.
Today in 1954, a group of nations banded together in Manila to form SEATO, the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization. This alliance, modelled on NATO, aimed to combat the spread of communism in the region. 8 countries, including the United States and the United Kingdom, signed the pact, creating a collective defence shield against the perceived Red Menace. However, like a poorly constructed sandcastle, SEATO crumbled under its own weight, dissolving in 1977. For more on this historical tidbit, we turn to our political correspondent, Hardiman Pesto.
I'm here in Manila with Sir Reginald Flopsworth, the British representative at the SEATO signing. Sir Reginald, how would you describe the mood here today?
Well, it's quite exhilarating, really. We've just signed a jolly important treaty, you know.
Pesto, can you clarify exactly what SEATO stands for?
Certainly, Martin. It's the Southeast Asia Tea Organization, a vital step in securing the region's Earl Grey supplies.
Tea? Are you sure about that, Pesto?
Absolutely, Martin. Sir Reginald here has been telling me all about it. Haven't you, Sir Reginald?
I'm not entirely sure that's correct.
Pesto, I think you'll find it's the Southeast Asia Treaty Organization. It's a defense pact, not a tea party.
Oh, I see. Well, that explains the distinct lack of scones at the signing ceremony. Sir Reginald, what can you tell us about this treaty?
It's a collective defense agreement modeled after NATO to protect against communist expansion in the region.
Fascinating. And how many countries have signed up for this anti-communist tea party?
It's not a tea party, Pesto. How many times do I have to tell you?
Right. So, Sir Reginald, how many countries are involved in this definitely not tea-related treaty?
There are 8 signatories: Australia, France, New Zealand, Pakistan, the Philippines, Thailand, the United Kingdom, and the United States.
Pesto, can you give us any insight into how this treaty might affect the balance of power in Southeast Asia?
Well, Martin, I'd say it's going to make quite a stir. Milk and 2 sugars for most, I expect.
For the last time, Pesto, this has nothing to do with tea.
Of course, Martin, my mistake. So, Reginald, what do you think this treaty will achieve?
Well, we hope it will provide a strong deterrent against communist aggression in the region.
I see. And will there be biscuits?
That's it, Pesto. We're done here. Thank you, Sir Reginald, for your patience. Pesto, I suggest you find a nice cup of tea and have a long, hard think about your career choices.
1974.
And now, a look back at this day in 1974 when President Gerald Ford dropped a bombshell that shook the very foundations of American justice. In a move that left the nation gasping for air and reaching for their dictionaries to look up unconditional, Ford granted a full pardon to disgraced former President Richard Nixon. The Watergate scandal, it seems, was officially water under the bridge. Critics cried foul, claiming Ford had effectively placed Nixon above the law, while supporters argued it was time to move on and focus on more pressing matters, like the nation's alarming shortage of bell-bottom trousers. For more on this story, we go to our American correspondent, Melody Wintergreen.
Washington, D.C., 1974. Where the scent of scandal is thicker than the smoke in a backroom poker game. Melody Wintergreen here, on the scene of a political bombshell that's still sending shockwaves through the nation. President Ford has just pardoned Richard Nixon, wiping his slate cleaner than a mobster's alibi. It's a move that's left America more divided than a Thanksgiving turkey. Some see it as a chance to heal, to move on from the Watergate mess. Others are screaming bloody murder, claiming Nixon's getting away with political grand larceny. Ford, bless his naive heart, says he just wants to bind up the nation's wounds. But critics are calling it a blatant cover-up, a political band-aid slapped over a gaping wound. They're saying Ford sold America down the river, all for the sake of tranquility. The fallout is as explosive as a Watergate break-in gone wrong. Public trust in the government? Lower than Nixon's approval ratings. The Democrats are howling for blood, while the Republicans are running for cover faster than a White House intern with a subpoena. And Tricky Dick? He's off to San Clemente, California, to work on his tan and his memoirs. No jail time for this president. He's free as a bird, or at least as free as a bird with a lifetime subscription to Presidential Scandals Monthly. So, as America grapples with this presidential pardon paradox, one thing's for sure, the Watergate saga is far from over. It's a stain on the fabric of American democracy that no amount of presidential forgiveness can erase. Melody Wintergreen, News Bang, in Washington, D.C., where justice has just taken a back seat to political expediency.
In Day News Bang, a world-class news program where facts and fiction finally meet.
And now, for a whimsical journey through the highways and byways of transport history, here's our time-travelling traffic correspondent, Polly Beep, with her unique perspective on roads past, present, and peculiar.
Good evening, road warriors and time travellers. It's Sunday and Polly Beep's here with your historical traffic update. Breaking news from 1860 Lake, Michigan. The paddle steamer Lady Elgin's had a bit of a disagreement with the schooner Augusta. I'd avoid that cruise if I were you. Gale force winds are causing more waves than a royal garden party. Visibility out there's lower than a submarine's laundry basket. The Augusta's captain claims he couldn't see the Lady Elgin until it was too late. Perhaps he needs to invest in some spectacles. Or better yet, running lights. For those of you aboard the Lady Elgin, I'm afraid your travel plans have been somewhat sunk. On the bright side, you're now part of Great Lakes history. Meanwhile, in 1932, the horse and buggy lanes on Main Street are experiencing heavy congestion due to an overturned hay wagon. Drivers are advised to avoid the area unless they fancy a free bale of hay with their journey. That's all from Polly Beep. Remember, whether you're sailing the high seas or trotting down cobblestone streets, always travel with a sense of humour.
News Bang, a loving kick in the nuts of deception.
Sandy O'Shaughnessy is standing by with a report on the Queen's opening of the Severn Bridge in 1966.
Nice and easy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and a hearty hello to all you royal watchers out there. This is Sandy O'Shaughnessy, coming to you live from the cosy confines of Newsbang Towers. Martin Bang has just handed over the reins, and I'm here to take you on a right royal romp through history. Now, cast your minds back, if you will, to this very day in 1966. The swinging 60s were in full swing. Miniskirts were all the rage, and our dear Queen Elizabeth II was busy snipping ribbons and christening bridges. Yes, on September 8th, 1966. Her Majesty opened the Severn Bridge, ushering in a new era for South Wales and giving the Welsh a chance to nip over to England for a cup of tea without getting their wellies wet. Picture it, if you will. Her Majesty, resplendent in her royal finery, standing atop this magnificent feat of engineering. One can only imagine the thoughts running through her head. I wonder if one could fit a corgi through these suspension cables? Or, perhaps, I do hope Philip hasn't wandered off to inspect the underside of the bridge again. Now, I've received a letter from Beryl in Swansea. She writes, "Dear Sandy, ever since the bridge opened, my husband's been popping over to Bristol every weekend, says he's inspecting the structural integrity. Should I be worried?" Well, Beryl, I'd say as long as he's not trying to sell the bridge to unsuspecting tourists, you're probably all right. But let's not forget the economic impact of this momentous occasion. South Wales was suddenly thrust into a new era of prosperity. Gone were the days of relying on carrier pigeons and semaphore to communicate with the outside world. Now, they could simply hop in their Morris Minors and zip across to England faster than you can say Lanfair Pool Gwingil Gogerich Wirandrob will Lantisilia Gogogosh. Of course, not everyone was thrilled about this new connection. I hear tell of a group of Welsh dragons who were most put out about losing their jobs as ferry operators, but progress waits for no man, woman, or fire-breathing reptile. As we reflect on this bridge of dreams, let's raise a toast to Her Majesty and her tireless dedication to opening things. Bridges, Parliament, jars of pickles, you name it, she's opened it, and who knows? Perhaps one day we'll see King Charles III opening a bridge to the moon. Stranger things have happened, my friends. So, until next time, keep your eyes on the horizon and your feet on the ground. Unless, of course, you're crossing the Severn Bridge, in which case, please keep your feet in the car. This is Sandy O'Shaughnessy, bidding you a fond farewell, and reminding you, as always, to mind the gap between reality and royalty. Cheerio.
All over the country for everyone.
1966.
And on this day in 1966, a new kind of starship set sail. Not on the high seas, but on the vast and unexplored oceans of space. The USS Enterprise, under the command of Captain James T. Kirk, boldly went where no man had gone before, on a 5-year mission to seek out new life and new civilizations. For some, it was a cheesy utopian fantasy. For others, it was a vision of a hopeful future. One thing is for sure, Star Trek changed the landscape of science fiction. To boldly go where we haven't gone before in our cultural retrospective, we turn to Smithsonian Moss.
Now, at this point of the evening, we welcome listeners on FM who've just joined us.
Whoa, Newsbang Nation. It's your girl, Smithsonia Moss. And tonight, we're beaming up to 1966 for the premiere of Star Trek. Now, let me tell you, this wasn't just some random sci-fi show with dudes in pajamas pretending to fly spaceships. This was a freaking phenomenon. A cultural supernova that exploded across television screens and blew everyone's minds. Okay, so picture it. It's September 8th, 1966, a time when America was tripping on LSD, freaking out about the Cold War, and desperately needed a dose of optimism. Enter Gene Roddenberry, a visionary who dared to dream of a future where humanity had evolved beyond its petty squabbles and was exploring the galaxy, not for conquest, but for knowledge and understanding. And he poured all that hope and optimism into Star Trek, baby. The first episode, The Man Trap, introduced us to the USS Enterprise and her crew, Captain James T. Kirk, a swaggering space cowboy with a heart of gold, Mr. Spock, the logical Vulcan with a hidden emotional side, Dr. Leonard Bones McCoy, the grumpy but lovable ship's doctor, Uhura, the badass communications officer who broke racial barriers, Sulu, the helmsman who navigated the Enterprise through treacherous nebulae, and Scotty, the miracle-working engineer who kept the ship running smoother than a freshly waxed Corvette. Sure, the special effects were a little janky, and those costumes looked like they were designed by a blindfolded seamstress hopped up on Romulan ale. But the show had something special, a certain je ne sais quoi that captured the imagination of millions. And let's talk about that diversity, honey. In 1966, having a black woman, a Japanese man, and a Russian dude on the bridge of a starship was a huge deal. It was like Roddenberry was giving the middle finger to racism and saying, hey, the future is for everyone, regardless of your skin color, your planet of origin, or the size of your ears. And speaking of the future, Star Trek was basically a crystal ball for all sorts of crazy inventions, like tablet computers, flip phones, and those medical tricorders that can scan your body and tell you what's wrong with you. Roddenberry was like Nostradamus on acid, predicting everything from virtual reality to 3D printing. But let's not forget about the fans, the Trekkies, who took this show and turned it into a cultural phenomenon. They built communities, wrote fan fiction, and even learned Klingon. Because why the hell not? They kept the flame of Star Trek burning bright long after the original series went off the air, and they're the reason we're still talking about it today. So, there you have it, folks. The premiere of Star Trek, a show that wasn't just entertainment, but a vision of a brighter future, a testament to the power of diversity, and a reminder that anything is possible if you dare to dream big. And if you haven't watched it yet, well, what are you waiting for? Beam yourself up, Scotty, because this is one wild ride you don't want to miss. Whoa!
A news bang, swimming in the sea of fabricated lies like a dolphin amongst soup cans.
And finally, let's take a look at tomorrow's papers. The Times. Romans. Given the old heave-ho in Teutoburg Forest. There's a map there of the forest. The Mail. Poles fought for a month on Hell Peninsula. That's in 1939. The Telegraph. Afghan leader taken out by terrorists. That happened 2 days before something else rather big. The Express. Flower show judge questioned over fiddled results. And that's it. If you're one of the 27 listeners still awake, well done. That's all for tonight. Until tomorrow, when another unsuspecting soul will attempt to make sense of it all, it's been me, Martin Bang. Cheerio!
Tune in next time for more artificially intelligent hilarity. News Bang is a comedy show, written and recorded by AI. All voices impersonated. Nothing here is real. Good night.